or persons are talking with limited knowledge. Keep doing your very best. In the fullness of time, your good work will be revealed. There is an African proverb that goes like this: smooth seas do not make skillful sailors. Leaders are refined by the challenges they overcome and the lessons they have learned. It is important that each of you select wise mentors who will guide you in your undertakings, that you will be open to being held accountable, and that you will mature in wisdom as you lead. Today, I want to leave with you 6 challenges as I encourage you. 1, to keep your vision front and center, why you are here, and what do you plan to accomplish. Number 2, make a determination of what will be your priorities for the responsibilities you have been assigned. Review them regularly and do your best to complete them. Number 3, be wise and know when you have to pivot and adapt because life demands it. Number 4, always operate in integrity. Allow your words and actions to match. Number 5, remember that God has gifted you, so do your very best in all your endeavors. And number 6, never be too proud to admit your mistakes, but do your best to correct them and not repeat them. As I conclude today, I conclude with 2 things. Stephen Covey states, the key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. Titus 2:7 states, show yourselves in all respects to be a model of good works, and in your teaching, show integrity. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, this day I pray for our senators, that they will never lose sight of their vision, that they will accomplish their priorities, that they will always be men and women of integrity, that they will cultivate and develop their leadership gifts, and that they will be humble when they have made mistakes and seek to correct them. Strengthen them in this very demanding time, and keep them safe from the evil one. In the precious name of Jesus we pray. Amen. Please join in the prayer of our Lord. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but lead us not, for thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Good morning, Senators. This is our session for the 17th of February, 2022. First of all, I'd like to thank our chaplain for her always lovely and thought-provoking devotionals and prayers. Secondly, I'd also like to thank Senators for agreeing to the 11 a.m. start today, so that those senators who wish may have participated in the National Gender-Based Violence Law Review Forum that is taking place right now. On behalf of the Minister of Social Services, he would like to thank all of the senators who attended the opening ceremony this morning. And I would like to give the regret and regards of our president, who is an active participant in that forum today, so who will not be here for the session today. Adoption of minutes.
Mr. Vice President, I move for the adoption of the minutes of the session of the Senate held on Wednesday, the 9th of February, 2022, if I may obtain a second.
Is there a second? Darn.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the minutes be adopted as laid. As many? All those in favor, say aye. All those opposed? The minutes have been adopted. Motions for leave of absence, leave to resign. Swearing in of new senators. Communication by the President. Messages from the Governor General. Messages from the House of Assembly.
Messages from the House of Assembly.
Message to the Honorable the President and the Honorable members of the Senate from the Speaker and representatives of the Honorable House of Assembly. The House of Assembly acquaints the Honorable the Senate that they have passed the following bill and desire the consent of that Honorable Chamber, namely, a bill for an act to provide for the establishment, incorporation, governance, control, and administration by a board of the Bahamas Agriculture and Marine Science Institute and for matters incidental thereto. House of Assembly, Nassau, 16th February 2022. Patricia DeVoe, Speaker.
Laying of documents by ministers.
Mr. Vice President, I beg leave to lay on the table of the Senate a copy of the following order. The Pensions Approved Authority National Crime Intelligence Agency Order 2022.
Order that the document be brought up. Order that the document do lie on the table. Further laying of documents.
Mr. Vice President, I beg leave to lay on the table of the Senate a copy of the following reports. The Annual Report Financial Intelligence Unit, the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, including the 2019 audited financial statements. The Annual Report and Audited Financial Statements and Auditor's Report of the Financial Intelligence Unit 2020. And the Office of the Auditor General Audit Report on the Ministry of Tourism, Bahamas Travel Health Visa 2021.
Order that the documents be brought up. Order that the documents do lie on the table. Further laying of documents by ministers.
There are none, Mr. Vice President.
Communications by ministers. Communications by senators. Questions. Answers to questions. Presentation of petitions. Appointment of select committees. Reports of select committees. First reading of bills.
Mr. Vice President, I beg leave to introduce and have read for a first time a bill for an act to amend the National Honors Act.
Is there a second? It has been moved and seconded that the bill, National Honors Amendment Bill 2022, be read for the first time and laid on the table. As many are in favor, say aye. As many are opposed, say nay. It is ordered that the bill be read for the first time and laid on the table.
A bill for an act to amend the National Honors Act 2016.
further.
Any further first reading of bills?
None, Mr. Vice President.
Second reading and committal of bills? The chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Michael Halkitis.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President. Mr. Vice President, you will recall that we will be debating moving the second reading and committal of the Bahamas Agricultural and Marine Science Institute Bill 2022. But before I do so, Mr. Vice President, you will be aware that the House of Assembly made certain amendments to the bill that we had previously read here for the first time. And therefore, Mr. Vice President, I would seek the concurrence of the Senate in withdrawing the bill that we had laid, that is on the agenda, and replacing it with the bill that was amended in the House and passed yesterday evening, the 16th of February. So I'm seeking the consent of the chamber, Mr. Vice President, to withdraw the original and replace it with the bill that was amended in the House.
Is there a seconder? It has been moved and seconded that the amended bill from the House of Assembly replace the bill that was previously laid in the Senate. As many are in favor, say aye. Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. You have the concurrence of the Senate. It's already been passed.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President, and I thank senators for their concurrence. Mr. Vice President, we in the Senate join those members in the other place in celebrating in church Majority Rule Day service at the Living Waters Kingdom Ministries, and more recently, the Parliamentary church service, which has become a tradition at the beginning of the year for parliamentarians to worship together. And Mr. Vice President, in preaching the sermon at the Majority Rule service, Apostle Raymond Wells, senior pastor, encouraged us to break out of the cycle or break out of the circle. And he referenced a circle that we have been in terms of national development over many years, and to break out of the circle and do some new and bold things. In preaching the sermon at the parliamentary service, the Reverend Neil C. Ellis admonished us to stay focused, laser focus. And so I think it is very appropriate to bring those two admonitions to the Senate as we seek to put in place this bill that will establish the legal and regulatory framework for the Bahamas Agricultural and Marine Science Institute, Mr. Vice President, because as you will learn, I am sure from the debate today, many of the things that will be said have been said for many years, and we agree. I'm sure we will all agree on some of the things that have been said and the necessity of doing some of the things that will be said. But I just wanted to bring to mind, to the remembrance of all of the senators, let's break out of the cycle, out of the circle. He intertwined the words circle and cycle, break out of the cycle, and let us stay focused. Because the objectives, I think, that we are going to lay out today for the Institute are shared by all. And I think at the end of the day, following the debate, we will all agree that it's a good thing to do, and that if we achieve the objectives of the Bahamas Agriculture of BAMC, we will be making a great step forward in our national development. So with that, Mr. Vice President, I move for the second reading and committal for a bill for an act to provide for the establishment, incorporation, governance, control, and administration by a board of the Bahamas Agriculture and Marine Science Institute, and commonly known as BAMSI, and for matters incidental thereto. And as I said, Mr. Vice President, this legislation establishes the Institute and puts in place the regulatory framework. So the Institute in Section 3 of the bill, the Bahamas Agriculture and Marine Science Institute, BAMSI, is established. It continues the Institute because, as we know, the Institute has been operational for a number of years, and it provides for the continuation of the employment of individuals who are now employees of BAMSI. In Section 5 of the bill, Mr. Vice President, it establishes the functions of the Institute. Amongst these functions are to provide instruction, to conduct research, and disseminate knowledge of a standard required and expected of an institute of higher learning in an environment which fosters academic freedom. Another function is to play a leadership and coordinating role in the provision of efficient and effective academic, technical, and continuing education in the sectors of agriculture, marine, forestry, agro-enterprise, meaning the business of agriculture, extension services and related disciplines, training that are responsive to the needs of the students, the primary industry, and the country at large. It calls for the Institute to be dynamic in its instruction and flexible in terms of meeting the needs of the country. It goes on to say, one of the responsibilities will be to review, facilitate, encourage, coordinate, promote, undertake, and publish research, and to participate in the discovery, transmission, dissemination, and preservation of knowledge in agriculture and marine-related fields. Some of the functions, Mr. Vice President, and I should go on to say that this was a vision of our former Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Perry Gladstone Christie, who in his first term between the years 2002 and 2007 put forth the idea of anchor projects where investments would be attracted to our islands, and sprouting around these investments would be economic opportunities for locals, individuals who are descended from those islands who wanted to return home, so they would become a hub, so to speak. In his second term in office, Mr. Vice President, he espoused the vision of investment by government in infrastructure, in institutes such as BAMSI, where there would be a significant investment in the physical plant, in the surrounding infrastructure, in the human resource infrastructure in terms of teachers and students coming in. And again, the vision was that springing up surrounding an institute such as BAMSI would be opportunities for any number of small businessmen to be able to thrive. And hence, you have a leap forward in the development of the island. Another function of the Institute, Mr. Vice President, is to enter into public and private sector partnerships with employers, trade or commercial confederations, and other societal stakeholders to develop courses of instruction and instructional methodologies necessary to attain synergy and cohesion between instruction and training of the Institute and needs of the national economy. And all that means, Mr. Vice President, is talk with the private sector, see what the demands are in terms of agricultural produce, in terms of training, and work with the private sector and individuals to make sure that you cater your training to fulfill those demands. I think those are the main functions. It empowers the Institute to enter into private sector relationships for production and for purchase, et cetera. And it goes on with several other functions that I won't go into all of them, but I think I've covered the main ones. Section 6 deals with the governance of the Institute, establishing a board and it sets out the responsibilities and functions of the board. Specifically, Section 7 provides for the appointment of a president. And we are pleased and honored to have, and in our midst, in the Senate, the president of BAMSI, the Dr. Erisha Hepburn, who will address us in the afternoon session, a vibrant, focused, qualified, excited Bahamian president who will lay out her vision for the Institute. We are also honored, and the senator who will second the bill is the executive chairman of BAMSI, Senator Terrell Young, who will lay out his vision in conjunction with the president for BAMSI. Section 8 provides for pensions and for allowing pensionable public officers to be transferred into BAMSI. Section 9 calls for the establishment of a pension scheme. Section 10 allows for the provision of policy directions by the minister to BAMSI, and Section 12 deals with financial provisions, ensuring that prudent financial management practices are observed. Section 14 exempts BAMSI from customs and real property tax, and Section 15 enables the minister to make regulations. The schedule to the bill deals with the constitution and procedures of the board. Mr. Vice President, this bill drives to the forefront of our national discussion issues such as food security, nutrition, dependency, and vulnerability. And as a small, open economy, our Bahamas is subject to all of these risks. We will recall that in the aftermath of 9/11, when we had shipping interrupted to our country, there was an interest, a spike in interest in things like backyard farming and gardening and import substitution and diversification and what will we do next time the ships can't come. And then the ships started to come again, Mr. Vice President, and it seems as if all those concerns receded into the background. I recall at the time the Minister of Agriculture, Larry Cartwright, very aggressively pushing a backyard gardening initiative, which garnered a lot of interest from the public. In the aftermath of COVID-19, in the midst of COVID-19, Mr. Vice President, we had a renewed interest in this backyard gardening. As people were locked down, they had more time on their hands. At some point, we couldn't leave our yard. At some point, we couldn't leave the house. And so some people took it up. Again, because of the economic fallout, the interruption of employment, people started to do things like work more in the yard, learn how to bake, start a new business, get a new qualification, earn a degree. But it seems as if this renewed interest in agricultural production, particularly in the backyard, is deeper and more sustained in the aftermath of the COVID-19. Many people have gotten involved, and they're still involved. And we all recall, Mr. Vice President, in the old days in New Providence, I wouldn't even speak of the Family Islands where everybody had a farm, but in New Providence, everybody had a small plot, whether they owned their home or were renting, where they would grow a few, pigeon peas, corn, sweet potato, things like that. And it is important, Mr. Vice President, I believe that given the renewed interest in agriculture, in what they call farm to table, having your food produced as close to you, as close as possible to where it is consumed, we need to now help to sustain that interest and expand that interest and encourage more people to produce and encourage more people to cooperate together and to pool their production. And I think that is where the vision of BAMSI nicely coincides with our reality today. The vision of BAMSI is a place where students could come from all over the Bahamas and receive instruction in modern methods of agriculture, marine sciences. We know the wealth of the diversity of the north side of Andros and how it acts as an aquarium, as a hatchery, and as a breeding ground that feeds the entire Caribbean. And so modern methods of agriculture, modern methods of marine science research, and the business of agriculture. How do you grow? How do you get to market? How do you get paid? And the end result in the vision, Mr. Vice President, was an increase in local food production for local consumption, which would replace some of the imports to help to feed some of our 7+ million visitors that visit our shores annually, and eventually to carve out some more space for exports in the agricultural area, including value added in the production of things like canned items and sauces and jellies, etc. Food security is very important. I think that goes without saying, Mr. Vice President. And we have seen recently how much this has come to the fore. The topic at the forefront of everybody's minds nowadays is inflation and how prices, including the price of food, continues to increase. We make the point, Mr. Speaker, I think everybody made the point in that other place about the size of our food import bill, our import bill in general and our food import bill in particular. And when we look at the United States, our major trading partner, Europe, the United Kingdom, and what they are experiencing in terms of inflation and how we are importing that, it just makes it even more urgent that we are able to maximize the impact of a BAMSI in terms of imparting the education and dealing with the production. We had yesterday, Mr. Vice President, we had a meeting with some individuals involved in wholesaling and in the petroleum industry and shipping. And what they tell us is startling. For example, one wholesaler said before the pandemic, to get a container from China to the Bahamas was around $6,000. Now it costs them $20,000. One retailer said to get someone to truck something from the warehouse in Florida to the dock, it used to be $500 and now it's $1,700. And of course, that cascades down to us. And so whereas in the US, they say, okay, January inflation was 7.5%, and their government is seeking to take some steps to mitigate that. We also, we import that, we recognize that inflation is an average. So even if here in the Bahamas, our inflation rate is 5%, what that means is some things are 5, some things are 1, some things might be 20. And so we will continue our discussions. We have some more meetings with shippers. We recognize for the most part, a lot of these things are beyond our control, Mr. Vice President. We all know what happened with COVID-19 when factories and production was shut down, and then individuals were at home and they received stimulus checks and they started to purchase more goods instead of services because we couldn't go out to a restaurant, we couldn't go out to a movie, so they used their purchases to purchase goods. Factories shut down, demand outstripped supply, and so you see the prices of things increasing. I recall, Mr. Vice President, the last year when the massive container ship, the Ever Given, I think its name was, blocked the Suez Canal for 6 days. And the ripple effect by stopping cargo going through the backup and the ripple effect and components can't get to factories and the impact that it's having even today where you have what they call a shortage of truckers in the U.S. and backlog at ports, which is impacting not only the prices, but sometimes even the ability of wholesalers to get product. And we all know early in the pandemic, if you wanted to buy some sanitize, the hoarding that went on. And so I say all that to say, Mr. Vice President, you had in 9/11 a particular event that was quick, that it seems as if the effect on us in terms of the immediacy that we looked at things like food production faded away. COVID, a much longer process, and then what we call the long COVID, not only the impact on individuals' health, but the impact on the economies that are lingering, that are leading to things like higher food prices, leading to things like, I remember, last year when the price of building materials, if you could get it, the prices almost doubled. And so I say, all of those things, recognize that we're open, we're small, we're vulnerable to all of these impacts over which we have little control. We can perhaps do some things to mitigate, but by and large, what this tells us and what this should put back in the forefront of our minds is that our forefathers had it right. Produce as much as you can eat as possible, as close to you as possible. It's healthier for you, and you can save some money. It's a long-term prospect to talk about totally eliminating the import bill. But I believe, Mr. Vice President, that if BAMSI operates, expands, excels, is able to attract individuals to come in, to learn new methods, to go back home, perhaps their individual islands, and service portions of those islands, then we see an improvement and a mitigation of these impacts that we're having. One of the other things we're facing is because of what they call geopolitical events, what's happening in the Ukraine and all of the uncertainty. We see oil prices are going up. And of course, we know that affects the cost of electricity. It affects the cost of shipping. We being importers, it affects those costs as well. And so all of those things speak to us here, perhaps not being able to impact global geopolitical events or global economic events, but doing our part in our corner to make sure at least we are growing more of what we consume. And so I am sure, Mr. Vice President, that senators, we will have, as it has been the norm, a very exciting and enlightening debate on this issue of, yes, putting in the legislative framework for BAMSI, but all of the underlying and attendant issues, from economic, in terms of being able to produce more of what we need, but also in terms of our health and the health of our nation, being able to produce more organic, perhaps more nutritious food that is closer to us. And at the end of the day, I think, again, this is one step forward in our national development that I think we can all encourage. And I think it fits quite nicely into the admonition that we received from both Apostle Wells to break out of the cycle and Bishop Ellis to stay focused. And so, Mr. Vice President, with those few words, I move for second reading and committal of the Bahamas Agriculture and Marine Science Institute Bill 2022.
Is there a seconder?
Second.
The chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Tyrell Young.
Good morning, all. Good morning, sir. How you doing? So, yeah. Mr. Vice President, good morning.
Morning.
And good morning to all my colleagues. Good morning, Long Island. And the entire Bahamas, good morning again. Before I start, Mr. Vice President, I just want to piggyback on what Senator Peters said, the bishop said in the service the past, I think, week or two back. Break out of the cycle. I think it's very important for us at this point in time to understand, especially after COVID. COVID really showed us that breaking out of the cycle is something that we not only have to be ready and willing to do at a moment's notice, but it shows us that that's the way life actually is now. That is the new norm. Not working within the normal parameters that we are normally used to, our comfort zone, as we normally say. So I'll get back to that later on in my speech. But I would also like to say, Mr. Vice President, I would like to give thanks to the Almighty God for waking me up on this new day, and for His mercies and many blessings in my life. Mr. President, at this time, I would like to give condolences to Nicholas, Amber, Mandy Sr., and Tina Konstantakis, and the rest of their family on the loss of their sons on January 21st, 2022. And also, I would also like to extend condolences to the Roxbury and Cartwright families, who also lost their son in that fatal accident in Petty's, Long Island, on that fateful night. Also, to our BAMSI board director, Mr. Edwin Simonet, Jr., that is, and his family on the passing of his father, Edwin Simonet Sr., in Roxanne, Lutheran. Mr. Vice President, I further extend condolences to a family friend of mine, and our good senator here spoke about it, I think, in our last sitting, Mr. Ellie Sanders, on the passing of his mother, Elma Williams, a.k.a. Irma. She was best known as Irma. And lastly, I would like to extend condolences to Andrew, Nathaniel, and Greg on the passing of their mother in Long Island this past week. On behalf of my wife, Lisa, and I, we send our most sincere condolences to all upon their souls and the souls of the faithfully departed. May sweet Jesus have mercy on them. Now, Mr. Vice President, what is BAMSI? That's the question that I am normally asked as I move about the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. At times, it kind of saddens me to see the state we are at, the money, the resources, the time, the effort that was pumped into BAMSI thus far. And I would suggest, I stand to be corrected, but I would suggest that 50% of our nation does not know what BAMSI is. From what I've gathered so far, 50% of the Bahamian nation does not know. Some don't know it exists. Some heard about it, don't know what it's about. And that should not be at this point. BAMSI should be, I know that UB was around much longer than BAMSI has been. BAMSI is still in its infant stage, but at this point, I think BAMSI should be well more recognized and known to the Bahamian public at large. And I'll explain to you and to the Bahamian public, just for record, what BAMSI is all about. Yes, sir. Yes, Senator, we will. So BAMSI is an agriculture and marine science educational institute that was formed in an effort to grow the sector for future food sustainability, and also for proper care of our environment and conservation of our natural resources. That's just the basis of what BAMSI is about. It goes much deeper, right? So BAMSI offers degrees in many study areas of agriculture and marine science. We offer certificates, short courses for those who just want the basic training in a particular area of interest. This gets farmers in the field and producing quickly. This gets the farmers in the field and producing quickly. So you have farmers that basically, you have some non-farmers, people who are just interested in getting into farming, but they don't want a whole degree in farming. They just want to do more like a backyard farming situation, but they want to be, somewhat in a position where as they understand the basis of farming, obviously. Some of them use it as a trial just to see if they actually have the niche for that market, so they can possibly go further and be an agribusinessman or businesswoman. So with that being said, we are trying to give Bahamians the opportunity to either go big or go small, but we are giving you the opportunity to learn about agriculture so that one of the main things I like about BAMSI is that it's an institute that is easy to get into, right? The short courses make it feasible for people, especially during the COVID time, that bring out the virtual atmosphere, and you can get these courses right online. So farmers who are, let's say you are an existing farmer, right? And you have livestock. Livestock is giving you some problems, but you can't get no veterinarian on the island quick enough to give you some assistance. BAMSI will work along with you to train you via virtual means in a short course of animal care and animal medicine, so that you wouldn't have to rely in future references so heavily on the animal doctor to get in. So it's definitely a savings, and it also is more conducive because we don't have enough veterinarians to actually move around the islands quickly enough to support the farmers that we have on the family islands. So BAMSI can do a lot in a very short period of time. I think that the problem is there, after some point in time after BAMSI was established, most recently, I think the vision of BAMSI was lost, and here we are now, right? So I'll get into some of the initiatives right quickly. I don't want to keep you long. The installment of greenhouses with aquaponics features in public and private schools to stimulate the youth's mind in agriculture and marine sector, so that we can have a continuous generation of Bahamians to carry on the industry with success. And Mr. Vice President, also setting up greenhouses in community common areas for community training and participation. Also integrating a program for the elderly to have engaging activities that will allow them a safe and mind-relaxing outdoor experience that will serve as a sort of therapeutic program. We know we have a lot of elderly shelters, and they're always looking for somewhere to go and something to do. And it's not enough programs in the Bahamas that we have that is focused on this group of individuals here in the Bahamas. So this program right here will give them an opportunity, and it's not one location. That's what's so good about this program. This can be adopted across the Bahamas. So that is an excellent point right there. I sure we have a lot of interest there. Mr. Vice President, the pandemic has brought light to the seriousness of food security internationally and most obviously locally. Thus, the need and urgency of us as leaders of our nation to seek and to provide education and business opportunities for Bahamians as our mandate to ensure a sustainable agriculture industry going forward, and the need for BAMSI as a means of education and the assistance we offer to farmers. Mr. Vice President, this BAMSI bill will be the foundation for the corporation, no matter who sits in the seat at the head of BAMSI's roundtable. And I'll piggyback on Senator in this first reading of the bill, that in order for you to know where you're going and to be able to focus no matter who goes there, you need a vision and you need a plan. Right now, BAMSI has picked up the original vision and plan for BAMSI. And so now the public can see, corporations can see that BAMSI, there's a new day at BAMSI and there's a new way. So with this bill being in place, it's going to put BAMSI on a good footing because, one, I have been in talks with many different NGOs that says to us, listen, we already have approached BAMSI in the past. The problem is we're not willing to go forward without BAMSI being enacted. So that is holding us back. And the minister, Senator Michael Alkitas stated earlier that there is many MOUs that are ready to be signed with BAMSI and the private sector. Even universities all across the world are just waiting. And we just had a meeting last week with another university from the US. And this is one of the holdups of why we cannot get grants, why we cannot get any kind of collaboration with these entities, because we need to be enacted so they can have something to carry back and say, hey, this place is legit. This is part of the government agencies, and we're ready to go forward. We have the bill in hand. So that this bill goes a really long way in that aspect. So, Mr. Speaker, sorry, my bad, my apologies. So, Mr. Vice President, I would like to outline some more approved projects that we have just recently got approval on from BAMSI's board. And today, I am privileged to outline the projects approved by BAMSI Executive Board under my leadership thus far, and how it will affect food security, research, and education in the agriculture sector. 1, we have approved 2 commercial-sized chicken houses, 1 for layers for the production of eggs, 1 for broilers, production of meat. Also, the waste will be used as a byproduct such as manure, which will also be utilized on the farm or donated or sold to farmers as a part of our AFP program. The AFP program that BAMSI operates is what we call the Associated Farmers Program. It's similar to the program that BAIC has, where they purchase the crops from the farmers. They help farmers with different products, seedlings and the rest of it. So that's what the AFP program is all about at BAMSI. 2, we have a state-of-the-art greenhouse. This is very interesting. Bahamas, I want you to pay very close attention to this next point. We have just put in place an order, right? But 2 state-of-the-art greenhouses. Actually, it's 4 in total, but 2 will be placed at BAMSI in North Andros as a test facility and also as a showcase for farmers and people that are interested in getting into the business. The state-of-the-art greenhouses with modern technology that was already ordered. This will provide farmers the opportunity to grow seasonal crops year-round with no downtime at all. In turn, mitigating the very problem we have now with supply consistency. Farmers will be able to provide distributors with a crop forecast for the entire year. This is better and more accurate than weather forecasting, don't you think? So that is one of the major issues that we have in the Bahamas, why we have cruise lines wants to purchase locally. We have corporations like VFS, they support us now, discount distributors and some others. They all support us now. But one of the main issues that we have as the farming community, including BAMSI and BAIC, is that we cannot offer these entities a formal and an accurate forecast of crops for months on end. And that is very important because they need to keep their stocks, their stocks at a certain level so their shelves can be filled at all times. But if we can't provide them with the forecast, then they don't know what to order from abroad versus what is available here in the Bahamas. So we never know as a farming community in the Bahamas what is available and when will it be available at any point in time. So this is the most major issue in the Bahamas right now that is affecting agriculture. It trickles down. It's a domino effect from this same statement. It's a domino effect that happens all because of this. So with these greenhouses now, this is going to mitigate that issue, and we're going to have this right here will in turn be enable us to cut down our food import by hundreds of millions of dollars right away. So, Mr. Vice President, also on these commercial grade greenhouses will be utilized as BAMSI new aquaponics farm with tilapia and shrimp also being a part of the production. Water conservation, a part of BAMSI's Go Green initiative. Same as how we are going to cut back now. We're actually in the process now of cutting back our paper and printing in our offices. That's a part of our Go Green initiative. So this will cut back on expenditure, obviously, and it will also affect, in a positive way, the environment. The other thing is we have 8 tractors at BAMSI, right? A part of the Go Green project is to see if we could convert those tractors to use biofuel instead of diesel. So we could mitigate a few things. One, we don't have that wastage of the biofuel from the restaurants that has to go into the waste system. We could reuse that and they could fuel the farm. One, it is good for the farm because it's organic and it will not contaminate the soil as the tractors do their work on the farm. And it will help the sectors because now we could purchase their byproduct, which is the biofuel, and that will be a return on investment for them. Also, the greenhouses will be powered by solar systems. Wherever the need is and it can accommodate it, we are trying the wind system as well, the wind turbine system for power. This is all in effect, is all in the same guidelines of reducing our footprint, our carbon footprint as a nation. BAMSI is now going into new territories as it relates to our greenhouse parks around the Bahamas. Mr. President and Bahamians at large, this is what I want you to pay close attention to. We have greenhouse parks that we are erecting across the entire nation. So it's going to be done in stages. It's going to be done over the next few years. But before or by summer, you will see the first ones already installed. So the good thing about greenhouses and aquaponics, one, water conservation because it recycles the same water continuously. 2, you can grow tilapia with no problem. That's another byproduct because when the fish reaches its maturity stage, that's another product you'll be going to be selling on the market. BAMSI grouper, yes, Senator. And then we're also getting into new territories, meaning that we're starting now to farm. We're going to use shrimp in our cycle. So we're going to be farming shrimp whilst we farm crops. Yes, so that right there is going to be great. BAMSI is not going to operate these greenhouses, by the way. that are going to be on the green parks. We are only erecting them to assist farmers, and we will turn the keys over to them once everything is already installed. So farmers, you can look out for that. And the order is already in on the first one, so we are well on our way. No. It's farmers across the Bahamas. Yes. So this moves is in line in meeting the industry demands for staggered crop production. Like I said, the issue is we cannot provide any forecasting at this point because we're growing most of our products now in the ground. So until we get away from that and we can actually grow crops out of the regular season, then, we cannot achieve food security. So this right here would mitigate that issue. We could stagger crops, and we could have crops every 7 days, every month, whatever have you. However the cycle is for that particular crop, you could have crops continuously all year round with the aquaponic system and the greenhouses. To some level, this will provide food security to our nation. I would like to showcase what I meant in a news article, in a news interview, I did some weeks ago when I said I met Bamsey in shambles upon entering office as chairman of Bamsey. So at this time, let the show begin. Mr. Vice President, when we talk about neglect at Bamsey, this here is one of the rooms in our distribution center that I met upon entering and viewing our facility. It's just one. This here was a room next to the computer room. This here is the customer service area, which we call our retail area at the front of the building. And if you notice the mold, the mildew. So when I say shambles, we mean shambles. This is another room, which was the ripening room. Same building. No, this was the ripening room for the tomatoes. No, that should not be expected because when it comes to crops, when we took the tour, it is not expected. It should never be in a condition like that because I went to other facilities, you can't find that. And I'm talking private facilities. So why are we operating this way? And we're supposed to be the industry leaders setting the standards. No, not because it's government, because it was government. It was the F&M government. So I totally agree. Yes, it was government.
Senators, don't address each other. Please address the chair.
Sorry, my apologies, Mr. Vice President. This here is at the aquaponics farm that I just spoke about. This is the condition. This is the wastage in the past 4 years of materials that millions of dollars were spent on at Bamsey. But yet, this is where we were. This is another photo of that same area. Same area, another photo. So I would just like to now show the renovations that are currently underway at the same facility that I showed you earlier. This same facility, mold-ridden, rats, roaches, whatever you could name was there. Here, now we have which looks like a brand new building. Looks like a state-of-the-art facility, clean, pristine, and ready to serve. Ready to serve. This is another photo. Same building. No mold, no mildew. But this is not 4.5 years later. This was what? Okay, thank you very much. Another photo of that building. Inside, this is all interior. Works are still ongoing. So now, that's where we met it. And also, when I spoke earlier, I said Bamsey had 8 tractors right? 8 tractors. When I came into office, I was astonished. BAMSI had, out of 8 tractors that was owned by BAMSI, only 1 tractor out of the 8 was actually operable on the farm. We were renting tractors for thousands of dollars. When I say thousands, I mean thousands and thousands of tens of thousands of dollars. We were renting tractors for months on end when I enter BAMSI. And I met this going on, right? Now, we are what? How many months are we in now? 5 months? Somewhere about. We got 1 tractor up and running on the farm. BAMSI, North Andros. You want to take a visit? I can show you. North Andros, another tractor. That's 2. North Andros, another tractor. 3. Yeah, camera, are you focused? Can you hear me now? Can you see me? Bahamians, I want you to see what we met in place and what was going on. These are the same 7 tractors that were not working. And we have some other ones that I don't have the photo on, but now as it stands, BAMSI has 7 tractors running on the farm every day. This here is the greenhouse shade in North Eleuthera at the parking house that BAMSI installed before the 2017 general election. I don't have a picture of the condition that it was in when we came into office, but it's back to this condition today, and it will be open and recommissioned today in North Eleuthera. When we say our AFP program, we support our farmers across the Bahamas. We support agribusiness also and young entrepreneurs in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. This here was the signing of contract with a young gentleman whose contract was signed under the previous administration, canceled, not the previous, sorry, the last Christie administration was canceled under the last F&M administration and was now reissued to the same vendor, same contractor, the young gentleman in the picture right here. And this right here is now the result of that. This is the organic, 100% Bahamian grown organic animal feed that is delivered every day at BAMSI property twice a day. That's what you call supporting young entrepreneurs. This here is some of our happy, very, very happy farmers in North Andros at BAMSI property. You couldn't get these smiles in the past 4.5 years because everybody was walking on pins and needles in BAMSI. I don't know why, but that's the case. But as you can see in the picture, it's totally different now. This is the kind of production that we have at BAMSI now. We have at least close to 150 acres now in use and producing for the next season. BAMSI was only producing 1 acre here, 1 acre there, 2 acre here, 2 acre there. We're now utilizing 10 acres alone just on onions, 5 acres on watermelons, and many more acres on the different crops that we have. So, yeah, I'm sure if our great senator was in charge at that time, he seems to be very knowledgeable in this field. I guess the past PM put him in the wrong position. So, with that being said, I want to speak directly to, I could go on and on and on about BAMSI, but obviously the time is limited, and I don't want to take time from anyone else. So, right now, we have a shortage. I don't know if anybody noticed, we have a shortage on bananas and limes across the world. The U.S. just stopped. No. We are at a dire stage where no bananas are being exported out of the U.S. That's how bad it is. So, yeah, definitely it has, and you're quite right. So we need to focus on, and I wish I had a picture of that to show the Bahamas and the Bahamian people also. When we left office in 2017, Barnsley had the most productive banana farm I wouldn't say in the region, but with our close neighbors, except the US. And we were industry leaders with our bananas. Now, the farm is completely destroyed. No effort, no emphasis was put on the farm, and this is the stage we are at. If it was kept up under the last administration, right now, we would not have been worrying about the shortage of bananas across the world. So this shows how integral and how serious it is for Barnsley to produce and to assist farmers to produce on a commercial level in order for us to keep some sort of food sustainability here in our country. So, Mr. Vice President, I would just like to leave on this note. I can go on, right? Like I said, but job for the days about Barnsley, right? Barnsley is a institution that needs to continue, that needs to perform in order for us to get where we're trying to get with food security. As a mandate of the Prime Minister and our country and our government, right? But not only. Yet, a passion and a personal goal of mine is to play an integral role in doing my part as Executive Chairman of Barnsley to serve our nation and get us to a safer place as it relates to food security. Mr. Vice President, we have some opposition senators here who I believe are in the wrong sector. One who seemed to be a newspaper boy, instead of a politician, and one who seemed to want to be an actor. One plays good cop role while the other delivers newspapers in Senate sittings. But it's not, Mr. Vice President. But it's not a surprise because their track records over the past 4.5 years actually, that proves they are in the wrong profession. So opposition members, I would like to say to my colleagues, I would like to just address and say to, sorry, Mr. Vice President, right? I would like to just ask some of our opposition colleagues here, now that I have explained in great detail what Barnsley is about, I remind you that class is in session. So please attend so we can educate you on how it's done the right way. Thank you.
It has been moved and seconded that the following bill be read a second time and committed. A bill for an act to provide for the establishment, incorporation, governance, control, and administration by a board of the Bahamas Agricultural and Marine Science Institute and for matters incidental thereto. As many The chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Darren Henfield.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I'm honored to be able to contribute to this bill, which I believe is a positive one which, in fact, we left on the table. That should have been looked at perhaps earlier, but we are where we are. And I'll happily attend your classes, Senator. I want to learn about farming. I want to become like Senator Alcides, who grows his own chicken, I hear. And being an island boy like yourself, farming is always very, very close to us. But I caution you, sir. I've been where you are, new and fresh and vibrant, and you come to change the world. Don't part too early. Right? Do something first before you start charging at the gate. Before you start charging at the gate. so hard and so fast. You know, bring us all along with you as we wish to go along with you, because what you do at BAMSI is significant to our country. It's very, very important. And I want to begin by congratulating Senators Dr. Hepburn and Senator Young on their respective appointments. And I see he is full of energy and vibrant. A young man, I know he will do, true to his name, he will do well. I'd also like to extend, Mr. Vice, condolences to the family of Sir Godfrey Kelly, KCMPS, and a prolific Olympian in our country around about the 60s and so on. Extend condolences to his family. May his soul rest in peace. When the minister got up and started to speak about inflation, my good friend and fellow fishing aficionado, I thought he was going to do something very powerful in here, as is often stated on one of the television shows that Bahamians enjoy. And I wanted to sit right here and say, oh, that's powerful. like rolling back that 10% on that bread basket items, which we warned in this place would be impacted by inflation, would be impacted by, if we check the Hansard, would be impacted by all of the other issues that we face now. And so, Mr. Vice President, today we have come to debate a bill intended to provide for the establishment, incorporation, governance, control, and administration by a board of the Bahamas Agriculture and Marine Science Institute, as we call it, BAMSI, and other matters incidental there too. This, we believe, is a step in the right direction. But our long-term goal with BAMSI will not be realized overnight. I old enough to know a song, you know, the fellow used to sing this song, Hoisty Sledge, I believe. So it was a song called Take Time to Know. Anybody in here old enough to know that song? It's not going to be an overnight thing, Senator Young. And so it is, however, this we believe is a step in the right direction, but our long-term goal for BAMSI will not be realized in the immediate term. It is, however, my hope and fervent prayer that this is not just another exercise in futility intended for political optics, but a step in our quest toward achieving food security in this country where it is so much needed. One of the problems we've had since independence, just like sister Caribbean countries who were formerly colonized and those colonies elsewhere, is we have wonderful conceptualizations of where we need to go, but we can't seem to figure out, in most cases, how to get there. Mr. Vice President, therefore, it is my prayer that we as lawmakers and policy influencers can agree on the formulation of policies and initiatives that are resilient, sustainable, productive, and inures to the benefit of all Bahamians. Things like agriculture should be able to be agreed across party divides. We should be able to come together with a long-term goal or range plan, say for the next 50 years, governing party and opposition, where you can sit together, right, and say this, and let's agree this is the direction that we want to take agriculture in for our country. Things like our healthcare system, education. We should be able to rest on the colors and rest on the politics to deal with these very important national institutions, very important to our country. And so we do so by, we enact policies and initiatives by anticipating the challenges that impact adversely upon our policies and initiatives. So we got to anticipate that there might be war in the Baltics very soon. And we can already begin to see the hiking cost of fuel, which is going to result and become more exacerbated, even more, if in fact we realize a war. You know, I heard some of the members in the other place speaking yesterday, and I remember as well 9/11, when we couldn't get ships out of the U.S. to bring food to the Bahamas, and that's no condition for us to be in. So some things are far too important for us to be overly political about it. I mean, I know this is the business that we're in. And so hopefully what we do here today will arrest the issue of food security in the Bahamas. Here's what was said of our region in this regard in the 17th meeting of the Regional Council for Planning in Latin America and Caribbean Institute for Economic and Social Planning in 2019 at page 50 of the report. It's worth a read. And I quote, "Repeated disruptions to production sectors such as tourism, fisheries, and agriculture have a significant impact, as these sectors are a source of employment for a section of the region's population." And so, Mr. Vice President, if we do BAMC right, if we abide by the objectives of the institution to be principally an educational and research facility focused on assisting farmers and fishers toward improving their methodologies by keeping pace with advances in their fields through the implementation of cutting-edge research. That's, I believe, is where the focus of BAMC should be. How do you empower farmers all across this archipelago? How do you arm them with the appropriate technologies and facilities and accoutrement to be able to become involved in their craft and in their trade so deliberately, so professionally, that we begin to feel the impact across the broader Bahamas? Only by doing that. I mean, it's good that we would want to go and take the 800 acres, I think it is, at BAMC and produce and really produce on a massive scale if we can. But it's nothing wrong with that. But I think the outcome, the end results should always be aimed toward how do we get our farmers to produce across this country on such a long scale, on such a large scale. By so doing, we'll put ourselves in a position to feed our nation and by God's grace, become large-scale exporters of what we grow right here in the Bahamas, once again, because we used to do it before. As a young boy, I remember growing up in Albuquerque, and I witnessed the Honorable Edison Key, formerly of that place and of this place. I call him Uncle Eddie, went to school with my mother, and his partner, Martin Sawyer, exporting produce grown by them right there on the farm in Albuquerque. And I remember the trailer trucks used to come through, and as a little boy, you know, when the drivers would stop, we would help ourselves to some of the cucumbers or tomatoes, and they didn't mind that because it was so abundant, and that's the way we grew up. And reportedly, they shipped upwards to 600,000 bushels of cucumbers a year to the United States of America, and this was in the 1970s. This is in the 1970s. So you see, the more things change, the more they remain the same, right? Here we are now, in 2022, talking about how we can potentially revive the farming industry, that we can once again recover and regain our footing to be able to engage in export in the way that was done. In the late 80s, the same too, the duo, they exported limes and grapefruits and oranges and lemons to Florida up until the early 2000s when they were hit by reports of citrus canker disease, which caused them to have to close down. You know, the trees were burned. You remember that? The fields were scavenged and the fields were burnt. Yeah, they were doing quite well. Uncle Eddie and them were doing quite well, man, with limes. And probably if they were still going, we wouldn't have this lime problem that we have now in the Bahamas, because you know Bahamas need lime for everything. Yeah. I don't want to boil fish if that ain't got no lime and goat pepper, right? And Kong salad, you know, my wife don't. They use this thing now. They put the orange in the Kong salad. I don't know where all young people get that from, right? The tropical they call it, and then they put fruits and the rest of it, right? But we should have a thriving citrus industry in the Bahamas, and these are the kind of things that I believe BAMC should be focused on moving our farmers toward. Why we can't grow onions in Exuma as they used to feed the country? Grow citrus in Albuquerque, lime and oranges and grapefruits. Grow pineapples in Eleuthera. We used to do these things, the generations before us, they were very prolific in these areas. And somehow we dropped the ball. Operations like Edison Keys and his partner, and there's some 20 or so others, including small-scale farmers like Elvin Sawyer and North Abaco, who works hard every day to bring his farm to the place where it can earn him a decent living, are precisely why BAMSI is so necessary for this country. Precisely why. I used to have discussions with Candy, God rest his soul, who was a big bird, and they found themselves growing chicken and competing with Tyson. They could not compete with Tyson. Tyson primarily, as I understand it, grew the chicken just for the breast. And so the other portions of the chicken that they export to the Bahamas for sale, I mean, you can't keep up with that. A bag of chicken leg quarters, I don't know what they are now, but I remember they were just under like $10 or $10 or so, a bag of chicken leg quarters, which could feed an entire family. So I was trying to encourage Candy. I said to her, listen, perhaps you can't compete with Tyson, but you might want to look at calling your chicken an organic chicken, which you grew right here of all natural feed. And then you package it as organic, and then you're able to sell it, I think, at the cost which it really is really worth. But I was home recently and I went to Maxwell's and I saw in Maxwell, I was pleased to see some big bird chicken and some other chicken imported, and they were all, and it was labeled so, Bahamian grown, homegrown, and import, so that you can take your choice. And I bet Bahamians going into Maxwell still struggle. And the price were fairly comparative. I think the prices were the same. I bet Bahamians going into Maxwell still struggle because we have this stigma that once something is foreign or done abroad, it's done better than what we can do in the Bahamas. And we've proven that we've laid that falsehood to rest many, many years ago. I mean, Mr. Sidney Poitier was the first black man to win an Oscar, and he was right here from the Bahamas. Right? We look at what we go to the Olympics every time the Olympics are held, and if we don't come home with gold medals, not gold medal, but gold medals, Bahamians are angry, And so look at what we were able to accomplish this time in the men and women's 400. So proud of them, right? So we can do it if we put our minds and our shoulders to the wheel and focus on doing it. BAMSI must help our farmers and others in Andros and Long Island and in Eleuthera and Grand Bahama and in New Providence, just to name a few, and with their potential to grow and to export. Not good enough to say that we've utilized the 800 acres and we're producing this and we're producing that, because we're gonna be right on this same hamster wheel again and again and again. We gotta spread it out across the country. And it's good that we have the tractors in Andros, but the farmers in Abaco need tractors too. The ones in Grand Bahama, they need tractors too. And so what we did was we were able to, through our accelerator program, we were able to try and help farmers with grants, farmers and fishers, to be able to get them going. And they're gonna need that because the farmers and other producers in the United States of America are heavily subsidized. They're heavily subsidized. And the government must find a way. And we must also, I hope that this board, and I'm sorry, the senator who will run this board is not here at the moment, but wherever she is, she might be listening. I hope we can engage some public-private partnerships. There are some things that we simply don't have the capacity to do. We don't have the finances to do it in our country. And we need partners who have done it before. They have harvesting tractors now, and they picking harvesting the wheat. They use the GPS on them. They put in the information, and the tractor just goes. You just sit there as an automatic pilot. The tractor just goes down one lane of the wheat field, comes back up the next lane of the wheat field, and she's harvesting. BAMSI must be in Abaco. BAMSI must be in Abaco and move BAIC back to the proper level. I welcome them to Abaco, man. I welcome them to Abaco. Even if it takes us some time to become active in the export market, we must set as an urgent goal reducing our food import bill which we believe to be, we hear numbers like up around 600 million. That's from the US alone. And then 1 billion overall, one point something, I believe, Minister, overall that we import into this country. And so here's what we've done in the last 50 years or so. We've done tremendously, extremely well in tourism. Extremely well. And that's why, as Foreign Minister, I always said to the Americans, when they sanction us and put us on these warnings, I always said to them, you are in essence sanctioning your own businesses. Because Bahamians take all of the money they make off tourism and go right into South Florida and put it right back in the American economy. And we must find a way to arrest that now in the time in which we find ourselves. We must find a way to keep more of those monies at home. Spend the tourism dollar that we make, we must find means and ways of spending that at home, because we make a lot of money in tourism. We have a very high quality of life and living in tourism, but tourism is not, even though it's with us, and it will be with us for a very long time, it's not always sustainable. Because we see when we have exogenous shocks, some of which we've talked about in here already for the day, it just goes away. COVID was a prime example of why tourism can be so undependable for us and our economy, which depends so heavily upon it. And so we must find a way to create linkages from our farms. And I was happy to hear the senator say that the cruise ships want to engage and buy some of our produce. I'm sure they would like to buy fresh tomatoes. If they in the middle of their voyage and they stop into Nassau or stop into one of our other areas where we'd hope they'd want to go, that they could just get fresh tomatoes, fresh cucumbers, right? To serve to their guests. All of these hotels that are here in the country, they should support Bahamian grown produce. They should support our farmers. But BAMSI must help our farmers to become so organized that they appreciate the schedule that the good senator was talking about, that they could be able to better plan and be able to utilize the services that we will provide. In an article in the Tribune of Monday, the 2nd of March, 2015, by Ricardo Wells entitled, Insight, I quote, Insight, can BAMSI really eat into the 1 billion food import bill? I found an instructive observation, and I quote, very instructive. Perhaps it's time to look beyond the political group that started this critically important initiative. For a second, think beyond the amount invested in the project to date. Maybe if you look beyond the burning buildings, insufficient crops, where is the meat headlines, we can conclude that BAMSI will not overnight take the food import tab from 1 billion to 0. But it is certainly a start that every Bahamian should appreciate. I thought that was a very instructive comment. Some things don't need to be political in this country, Like how we eat, like how we eat, like how we educate our children, right? There's no need for division in that. And blaming one another, we've been blaming ourselves since independence. Who did this? Who did that? Who didn't do this? But this is our time now. This all of we. This we time now. Yes, it is, but it's true. But it's true. This we time now to make a difference. This we time now to show that we could take this little country and make it the best little country in the world. Food prices are simply too high in the Bahamas, where we import most of what we eat. And the cost of what we eat is now exacerbated by global events, which in the most part, we have nothing to do with. And you heard it said by the minister responsible for economics. These include inflation that is now at a 40-year high from all accounts. COVID-19 continues to challenge worldwide distribution chains, and the price of gasoline continues to climb, and war looms in the Baltics. As we know, Russia is among the top 5, I believe the top 5 or 4 major producers of crude oil in the world. And if they engage in conflict, we're going to feel the bite of that. And so, Mr. Vice President, I know that the Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources and Family Island Affairs, the Honorable Clay Sweden, who I believe is a good island boy, reminds me of akin to the one that you spoke of, the former ambassador from Long Island, who grabbed agriculture, Larry Cartwright, who grabbed agriculture by the horns and tried to really make a difference. And I believe that Minister Sweeting will do similar things because he understands what it is to live off the ground and off the sea and from the sea. He understands that. He knows what it is, like me. When your mom put on that pot of rice, you gotta, sometime you had to run out on the bay and catch a couple of porgy and grunt for her to come and smother. These young people don't know nothing but them kind of things. Huh? Yeah, and you were happy. You were happy. These are the kind of things that we grew up with experiencing on the island. And so we see that he will participate. He's traveling to Dubai sometime this month to participate in the inaugural food and the Future Summit of Expo, I think it's called, inaugural food for the Future Summit and Expo. You know, this constant refrain from governing side is that they are re-engaging in the international community. I welcome that, man. That's good. And it's an echo that is not true. And I even heard it in this place, coming from one of my colleagues in this place, and I know it wasn't him. So I can leave that right there, I can rest that right there like Shaggy, and leave that right there because he's a good man. I know that messengers and emissaries charged to do as they do are told. But when they give you certain messages to carry in, and you must always remember that, you know, it's you who carry the message. You ain't got to carry all them messages. Sometimes tell them I ain't bringing that one, because that one ain't right. And so, you know, as the minister travels, as a former foreign minister who I believe traveled less than any who previously sat because of COVID and other events that intervened. When we travel, we must always seek to determine what will benefit the Bahamas. Traveling is all good, you know, but you have to bring back some benefits. You have to have some manifestations on the ground that the Bahamian people can taste, touch, and feel to show why you've been doing all of that. And so when the technical people used to come to me as minister and say, listen, you got to go here and you got to go there, my first question would be, why? And they'd say, well, because we've always done this. I said, but why? Tell me how this benefits Bahamians in their security or in their economy. And if you can show me that, I wasn't too inclined to jump on a plane and go. Always we must work toward benefiting our people. All right? And so as we travel to Dubai again, we should bring back some of the technology. When I was in China, I saw technology of the kind that I had never seen before, were able to produce in a greenhouse environment. I mean, miles and miles of food. And they didn't, and when you use that type of technology in farming, this is the way Bahamasi's focus should be, right? When you use that type of technology in farming, you're not worrying about the seasons. Come winter, spring, summer, or fall, you're able to grow year round. Hydroponics, they call it, I believe. You know, and you're able to water your plants and your seedlings on time. You're able to give them sunlight on time. You know, you're able to do all these things in a controlled environment. You know, we live in a hurricane zone, so 9 times out of 10, one of them gonna pass this way. And if it don't hit Grand Bahama and Albuquerque, it probably hit somewhere down south in Inago and Mike Island, that area. That happens to us, and so we must plan for that. And so when they come now and root up all the farms that the farmers have, we must be able to build in resilience in these farms. And so if we get these containerized planters, we use the technology and we anchor them to the ground, or we're able to secure them, move them to a safe quadrant if the hurricane is coming, the way we do our ships in the Defense Force, and Bahamas Air does with its aircraft, then we'll be fine, right? And so as I wind down, Mr. Vice President, the Bahamas likely possesses, and I didn't want to leave this out, the Bahamas likely possesses some of the more fertile fishing grounds in this region. right? You heard the minister allude to it, that Andros, the estuaries around Andros, mangroves and the rest of it, probably the breeding ground for the marine resources in our region, in this environment. BAMC must work to cause us to keep these grounds through sustainable fishing and harvesting of our most valuable and sought after seafood. They should also work very closely with the Royal Bahamas Defense Force to mitigate poaching by many of our neighbors from the south, to the south of us. You know, poachers from the south, I boarded and arrested them over my lifetime. They are very indiscriminate in what they take. They will take anything from the seabed. They don't care about the size or maturity of the resources that they steal. They steal them. And we must find a way to work on algorithms and learn their patterns and the way they come into the southern Bahamas, the kind of times that they use. BAMC got to be involved in all these things. How do we enhance our marine resources? We have so much work to do. There must be a way for us to benefit from the pelagic species of fish that we are told are in high concentration in our waters at certain times of the year. You know, when last you ever heard of Bahamian fishermen other than Senator Alcides, myself, and probably Brent O'Rourke, say we hook a mackerel, right? The local Bahamian fishermen don't take advantage of that, or the large tuna, yellowfin, and other forms of tuna that come through the Bahamas right off the Atlantic there around Hope Town, in abundance. All right. You have sometimes the longliners will come in and they will put down lines for miles and put a buoy on it, and they will go out from it and they leave a mark on it, a radar attractor that will be able to cause them to readily identify where they put it down. And they'll come in and haul these lines up with black snapper and red snapper. I mean, for days. Bahamians don't take advantage of that kind of fishing. BAMC must find a way. BAMC must find a way for Bahamians to become involved in it. It is illegal. It is illegal. It is illegal. Not for them, it's for us. We can do it, but not them. And then we have these commercial fishers who come on private boats. They bring about 10, 15 people and they say these are their friends and their family. And they got all kinds of coolers. So I said, well, what you doing with all these fish? You know, they said, you got to go talk to the commissioner in Bimini someplace. Let him know what you're doing with all these fish, right? Because you have a bag limit, and you should stick to that. You know, we enacted laws trying to protect our fisheries reserve. We enacted laws that required that only Bahamians be able to fish on these boats. We got a lot of flack for that. The current leader of the opposition, Michael Pintard, forcefully pushed through that bill. And we got a lot of flack for that, you know. But we were just trying to protect Bahamians, trying to protect Bahamian fishing industry for Bahamians. And BAMC must look at all of these things. We got a lot of work to do. There must be a way for us to benefit from what we have. Bahamians are not engaged in harvesting the abundance of what we have. And we need to find a way to initiate this. These are mainly, you know, left for others to enjoy. We on this side, we support the bill. And we hope it moves us nearer to securing our future. And with those remarks, I thank you, Mr. Vice President. Thank you.
As many The chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Quinton Lightbourne.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Thank you, Senators. I rise this morning in these honorable chambers with a grateful heart to the Almighty God for allowing me the privilege to stand in this place once again. As the leader of government business in the Senate advised this morning that I will stay on track. I will stay on message because we are here to debate and talk about BAMC and the BAMC Bill of 2022. And I appreciate the lesson and the information learned by Senator but I want to be able to say that what we do in here today is our task. The Bahamas Agricultural Marine Science Institute Bill 2020 will play an important role in the lives of Bahamians, both now and in the future. The pillar of this bill is primarily education. If I may, Mr. Vice President, I would like to read the mission of BAMSI, and I quote, "To be the leader in providing first-class education, cutting-edge technology, and technical training in agriculture, marine sciences, and related disciplines. We are devoted to a nationwide mission of inspiring entrepreneurs and preparing students for successful careers with focus on environmental stewardship, leadership, research, and outreach. This bill today will help make this mission a reality, and this government has put priority on passing this much needed bill. The side opposite, for lack or whatever, can term the form that they've kicked the proverbial can down the road. But this tenure in our government, we will not allow it to happen. As a young man, I see the need to get BAMSI up and running with the proper legislation and support. Recent statistics show that 80% of Bahamian farmers are over 60 years old. This, my brothers and sisters, is a huge national problem that we must address. The industry is slowly fading away, and we cannot allow it to die. Farming must become attractive again for Bahamians. It must become viable again for Bahamians. The government must lead the charge and not stifle this progress due to politics. As I listened to the Senator Terrell Young earlier this morning, he spoke about the educational programs that will be rolled out through BAMSI. And we will do a BAMSI cadet program. I myself was a member of the technical cadet program, which is a feeder program that channeled young Bahamians into fields that they have shown interest in. And BAMSI and instituting a BAMSI cadet program will do exactly that. Most of us in here, I'm sure, have heard about the agricultural companies around the world that have come and become very successful, such as the Dole Food Company and Idaho Farms. But as we even look and take a look in our country, we look at Eden Farms. We've seen the progress in terms of what they've done right in our country to the agricultural sector. But with the passing of this bill, we will also now be able to attract these multi-million-dollar companies to invest in our land, as this is the future development for this industry. We must allow economic and investment progress through agriculture. But in order to do that, we must start with education. BAMSI was initially intended to educate future generations of Bahamians, to promote academic excellence, help reduce our importation level of food, which will help to reduce the cost of living in our country. This New Day government is still committed to the vision which was first introduced by Sir Lyndon Pinley over 35 years ago, before I was born. From an economic standpoint, I see the importance of BAMSI on our national economy. If we can reduce our annual food budget and food import bill just from America, which stands at $620 million, we can allocate necessary funding to various sectors such as healthcare, which ties directly into what we are consuming in our bodies. This bill is just the beginning and will lay the educational foundation to the future of agriculture and marine science in our country. The BAMSI Bill 2022 also provides the legal framework and guidelines for the operation of the institution. This bill will give the president and board of directors of the institution self-governing control of the affairs of BAMSI, aligning it with other institutions both nationally and internationally. I would like this time to congratulate my Senate colleague, Dr. Aricia Hepburn, who will serve as the first female president of that institution. I am sure with a wealth of knowledge in this field, she will take the institution to new heights. Mr. Vice President, may you permit me for a moment to input a shameless plug-in for the people of Auckland? Thank you. I trust that the cascarilla oil extraction process will be taught at BAMSI because it will help stimulate this untapped industry in our country. Already, there has been a desktop distillation system for the extraction of cascarilla oil on Auckland, and 5 stakeholders have already received training in the extraction and storage methods by biochemists from the University of the West Indies in accordance with industry standards. The Bahamas Development Bank has been working along with BIIC and the Auckland's Islanders Cooperative Society to propel this industry. 105 acres of land have already been designated for the proper cultivation of the cascarilla in the settlement of Selvins. So please, I ask of my Senate colleagues, Senator Young and Senator Hepburn, please do not forget the people of Auckland. I've heard the term, the health of a nation is the wealth of a nation. With that being said, we must ensure that we promote healthier lifestyles for Bahamians from a younger age. Teaching our children the importance of growing their own foods and practicing healthy habits is the right step because we give them a fighting chance to consider healthier lifestyles, to be healthier for their bodies. And we all know the idea and what is in processed food. These are things that we want to keep away from younger children. But I would say this, in 2019, the World Health Organization conducted a survey, and they reported that 37% of Bahamians have hypertension. And presently, we have no national policy for it. This government will ensure that we implement ideas and initiatives to fight this problem, which is killing thousands of Bahamians every year. I want us to live in the Bahamas where I can go to a hotel or a restaurant or a food store and I see Bahamian fruits and vegetables at the forefront and not just the last option or no option at all. When you visit Jamaica and some other Caribbean islands, all the fruits and vegetables that you see used in the hotel are locally grown. This is the Bahamas that I want to live in, a place where we can say as senators that we pass legislation to make that a reality. We are not here to play, dream, or drift, but we are here to impact change for generations to come. Each of our islands have a unique fruit, vegetable, or livestock that we can cultivate to feed ourselves. And we cannot overlook the potential of all our islands. As a young boy, you remember, we all know that the Lutra was known for what? Pineapples. Exuma is known for onions. These are the initiatives and these are the things that we must push through BAMSI to ensure that we can bring those necessities back to our country. The survival of our country depends on the success of BAMSI. So it must be devoid of political interference and not labeled as a political initiative, but it should be labeled as a national initiative for all Bahamians. As I take my seat, Mr. Vice President, I will say this. The Bahamian people are watching us and will hold us all accountable if we don't do what it takes to make our country better. The Bahamas Agricultural, Marine, and Science Institute Bill 2022 is a gigantic step towards long-term sustainability for our country, and I support this bill. Thank you.
As many, the chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Reuben Ramming. One moment, Senator Ramming. The chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Michael Halkitis.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Mr. Vice President, this is a convenient time to move for the luncheon suspension, following which, when we return, Senator Ramming will have the floor. So I now move that the Senate business be suspended until 3 p.m. this afternoon.
Do I have a seconder?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the business of the Senate be suspended until 3 p.m. this afternoon. As many are in favor, say aye. Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed. The business of the Senate stands suspended until 3 p.m.